Minister, my question relates to the tax measures that your department might be considering in the next budget in terms of stimulating access to finance for the SME and micro sectors, please.
Shanahan. SMEs are the foundation of the Irish economy, accounting for the majority of employment in the state. Their vital importance to our economy is reflected in our programme for government commitments. In relation to tax measures, my department has been proactive in supporting SMEs by introducing and expanding a number of taxation measures which help small businesses access investment, scale up and expand. Measures include the Section 486C relief for certain start-up companies, the Employment Investment Incentive, the Key Employee Engagement Programme, the KEEP, the Start-up Relief for Entrepreneurs, SURE, and the Start-up Capital Investment SCI. Broadly, the Section 486C relief provides relief from corporation tax to new start-up companies who have a corporation tax liability of less than €40,000 for an accounting year. The purpose of the relief is to encourage start-up companies in Ireland, thereby creating additional employment and economic activity in this state. Promoting investment and jobs in Ireland is a key part of the government's overall strategy, as was recognised when the scheme was extended from 3 years to 5 as part of the Finance Act of 2021. The EII scheme provides a platform for investment in certain SMEs. It provides tax relief for individuals who purchase qualifying trading company shares. The relief aims to encourage individuals to provide equity-based finance to trading companies, to assist companies to raise finance to allow them to expand and create or retain jobs. The Key Employee Engagement Programme allows certain SMEs to engage key staff in a more cost-efficient manner. The scheme is a focused share option programme intended to help SMEs attract and retain talent in a highly competitive labour market. And the Start-up Relief for Entrepreneurs is a tax relief for entrepreneurs who leave employment to set up their own company. It can provide a refund of income tax paid in previous years, where the individual establishes a new trading company and invests cash through the purchase of shares. And I can further respond in a moment.
Minister, you and I interacted in this chamber some weeks ago. Could I just ask you to confirm, further to that conversation, that the tax breaks that you might be giving to the private rental sector in the budget will be backdated to January of this year, as was requested amongst measures from the regional group? Minister, the access to finance is just a huge problem now at present in the SME and micro space, and commercial pillar banks are very hard to get money out of, and when you can, SMEs are paying 8% plus APR, and if they're going into link finance, they can be paying up to 14% APR, not really something that's sustainable for a lot of businesses. Can I ask you, is there any plans to look at reintroducing an SBCI backup scheme as was done during COVID? Also, Minister, the commercial insurance, I know it's not quite your bag, but it's a huge problem now. We haven't enacted the duty of care legislation yet. The number of claims circumventing PIAB are rising all the while. And I have two companies, one an indigenous baker whose insurance has gone from 10 to 30,000 euro with a 10,000 excess, and a leisure business that's gone from 50,000 premium to 250,000 annual premium for the next 5 years. These are the problems that are afflicting the SME sector presently.
On your final point in relation to insurance, as you know, Minister Carl McNeill is leading in relation to the government's insurance reform programme. A huge amount of progress has been made in terms of the new personal injury guidelines in relation to the Office of to promote competition in the insurance sector, for example. The legislation to reform the duty of care is at an advanced stage. We expect it will complete its passage through both houses before the summer recess and will then be enacted, and that is in some respects the final major piece of the jigsaw of reforms in this area. In relation to the rental sector, so I have given a commitment that in the budget I do intend to introduce measures to support investment in the rental sector. The precise timing and the nature and the detail of all of those measures is a matter for consideration as part of the budget budget process, Deputy, and I can't go into any more detail on that. But on the enterprise tax reliefs that you have raised, I am reviewing them in the context of the budget, because I do believe that, while we've had tremendous success and will continue to, I believe, in foreign direct investment, there is a need to focus on the indigenous economy. Some of these schemes have been really successful, others less so, and we have to see if we can improve them to make them more effective, and that work is now underway in my own department.
Suggest a couple of things. One is potentially to look at the tax warehousing scheme again this year. I think there's a lot of companies who are still trading from the subsidies that came during COVID. They're going to have a difficult time later in the year. Beyond that, I think, could you look at putting tax credits on utilities rather than looking for a windfall tax that gets to everybody? It would mean that the high users end up getting a tax credit, and they're the ones that are in manufacturing. Beyond that, maybe a regeneration of the stay and spend tax credit, and that was a very difficult scheme to get at, but that was one that was well worth doing because it targets the restaurant sector in particular, and where people will get a credit, but backdated to this year, not to next year's tax bill, so that people can see the benefit. And finally, could I just say, regarding an insurance, I don't like to highlight any individual case, but there was €145,000 awarded in the courts during the week for a dislocation of an elbow of an equestrian centre. And while those types of claims are carrying on, Minister, we're not going to get any reform, a reasonable reform of insurance if these payouts still are being done at that scale.
Thank you, Deputy.
Thanks, Deputy. In the minute, it won't be possible to respond to all of those issues, but I do want to just touch on the issue of tax warehousing, because I know it is a very important issue for a lot of businesses. And at the end of March, the value of debt warehoused was over €2.2 billion across 63,600 businesses. As you know, last October, the Revenue did announce an extension to the period during which debts can remain parked in the warehouse. This means that businesses no longer have the challenge of making arrangements to repay their warehouse debt until the 1st of May 2024. So this is significant additional time, which should greatly support businesses in their recovery from the impacts of the pandemic. The Revenue's expectation is that the extended timeline to the 1st of May of next year for entering into arrangements for repaying warehouse debt, so that's for entering into, not for having to repay it all by that date, together with flexible payment arrangements, will assist most businesses to work through any payment difficulties. And when I look through the data, actually very many of the businesses, the amount of tax that they have warehoused is quite low. The bulk of the money is made up by a relatively small number of businesses. And look, the message, as is always the case to businesses when it comes to tax issues, is to engage with Revenue, and the Revenue know the importance of that scheme, and that's why they have extended until the 1st of May next year the deadline by which businesses have to have entered into an arrangement.